Hi guys, what's up? What's jumping off? Hope you guys are all hanging in there and ready for spring. It was actually about 75 yesterday. I couldn't believe it here in Spokane. Super nice. So I'm kind of in this, I don't know, background sort of frenzy at the moment, and working with masking fluid. So I thought I would do a quick video. Don't know how quick it's gonna be, but I haven't done many like process videos or anything like that yet on this channel. So I thought we could talk about masking fluid and you know, what works for me is all I'm gonna say. Like, there's never for anything, especially in coloring books, there's never a right way or a wrong way to do anything, really. It's all kind of a trial and error, right? I do know that I have been successful using masking fluid in my Johanna Basford books, my Hannah Carlson books. I've used it in Kirby books, books that tend to have a little bit better quality paper, let's say. And actually, smoother paper is a little easier to remove masking fluid from. But, you know, pretty much any coloring book is going to have smoother paper than watercolor paper. Even smoother than most hot press papers. Anyway, so I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of a rundown on what I know about masking fluid. And I know there's probably lots of things I don't know about masking fluid, but here's what I do know. So, first of all, what is masking fluid? It is basically, I don't know exactly what it's made of, but it feels like rubber. It's almost like a liquid rubber. It's also called frisket, liquid frisket. This one is made by Graphics. I think I got this at, I think I got it from Blick. I will say, I recommend buying a small bottle of masking fluid unless you're working on really large scale or it's something that you're going to use regularly, because it'll go bad. It'll dry up inside the bottle. Even if you never open it, it will. Over time, it'll slowly just dry on the inside, and you'll wind up with a bottle of dried up masking fluid. I've been using this one already, so it's not so bad, but trying to find something I can, so you'll see, like, you get this coating around the inside of your bottle of basically dried up masking fluid, and if you don't use it, eventually the whole bottle will just dry up. Anyway, so there's that. That's a thing. Sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's yellow, sometimes it's green. It can be different colors, and that is just so that when you apply it onto white paper, you can see where you put it. This stuff is basically white. It's kind of a cream color, but when it dries on the page, it's pretty much like it's yellow. I was gonna say it looks like boogers. Anyway, it dries sort of yellowish, so you can definitely see it. Any masking fluid is fine. I don't think any brand is particularly better than another. So yeah, so you can buy it in a bottle, and you can also buy it in these pens. So these work pretty much like a acrylic marker, where you have to pump it You shake it, pump it, and use it. These are refillable, so you can get, you can buy masking fluid from Molotov that has a nice little dispenser on the cap, so that you can unscrew this, clean out all the dried up masking fluid, and then there's another little cap right here that you take off. It's kind of hard to take off. Anyway, you got to take that off, and then there's like a little nozzle on the refill bottle, and you can fill it up. So the body of the pen is clear-ish, so you can see basically when you get it full. I do not recommend buying the refill bottles, or the pens for that matter, from Amazon, because chances are they'll be dried up. I've purchased the pens that I bought, I got from Blick, but I have purchased the refill bottle twice from Amazon, and both times when it arrived, it was totally dried up. It was Prime, so I got my money back, but still, it was like I wanted the fluid, you know, the masking fluid. Anyway, these are not super cheap. They range from, I think, $10 to about $13, something like that, per pen. This one has a 2mm nib, and this one has a 4mm nib. So you can see they pump just like a acrylic marker. I love these. I think they're great. I use these more than the liquid, but if I'm going to be covering a large area, like a large flat area, this is definitely the way to go. So that's those. Other ways you can apply masking fluid. You can use a brush, and you can even use your nicer watercolor brushes. I will say that it's actually a little better. It's a little easier and more accurate to use a halfway decent brush when you're applying masking fluid, because you can get in your detailed areas, and you know, it's more just like working with paint if you're using a halfway decent brush rather than, you know, like a kid's craft brush or something. And to save your brush, all you need is a little bit of dish soap. So I just have some Dawn dish detergent and water. It's about 50-50 water to detergent. And you just take your brush, dip it in there, kind of smush it around so that the soap coats all the hairs of the brush, and kind of wipe off the excess, and then you're good to go. And you can use this brush until you're finished with the project. You don't even need to reapply the soap. It'll stay on there. So you can use this. You always want to pour your masking fluid into some other type of vessel to work from, rather than dipping into the bottle, especially if you're going to use soap on your brush, because you don't want to put soap into that. And also it prevents that from drying out while you're working. And then when you're finished with this, you know, I just put a little tiny bit in there, but when you're finished with this, you can pour it back in the bottle. You know, there's not too much soap that's going to transfer back in there. And then you just let your vessel dry, and whatever's left in there, you can just peel it right out. Anyway, so you can see, using a halfway decent brush, I'm able to get I'm able to really control where the masking fluid is going. I can apply it onto relatively detailed areas. You don't need masking fluid to be thick. It doesn't have to be thick. All you need is a very thin, layer, and it's going to prevent the paint from sticking to those areas where you've applied the masking fluid. So you get that done, and I'm just going around the edge of this bee. I guess it's a bee, and applying some fluid. I would say about, I don't know, 1/8 to 1/2 inch wide around the border, around the edge of this little critter. Okay, so then when I'm done with that, dip it in some water and wipe it off. And that's masking fluid. And this brush is good as new. There's nothing on there. You do want to make sure you get all the soap off. But yeah, so you can use your good brushes with masking fluid, and I actually recommend using your better brushes rather than cheapo brushes. Other thing a lot of people like to use are silicone brushes like this. I don't want to dip in there. Hold on. You wind up with these little balls of masking fluid all over the place. So you can use these. I don't know, it's not really my favorite, because you wind up with, I don't know, it's just not my preference. You kind of wind up with these like globs on the tool, and it makes it a little bit harder to actually know whether or not you're getting the masking fluid onto the paper. So it's not my favorite application method, but a lot of people do use it. It probably would be better if I was using masking fluid that was colored, if it was blue, because then I could see it better. But it's just not my favorite. I'd rather use a brush or use my little pens. A lot of people also use these. I forget what these things are called. But so this works almost like a kind of like a fountain pen in a way. It has 2 pieces of metal on the end that have a gap in between them, and this little screw that's here tightens up, and it actually closes that up to where they're like touching. And then if you open it up, if you turn the screw the other way, you can create a little gap there between the 2 little pieces of metal. And then when you dip it into ink or masking fluid in this case, you'll get a little bit that gets trapped in between the 2 pieces of metal. And depending on the gap, the width of that gap, that's how wide of a line you can draw with your ink or with your masking fluid. And these are nice if you're trying to create like really straight lines, or if you're trying to do patterns with masking fluid, or you just kind of got to play with them though. If your fluid is somewhat dried out, it's a little bit more difficult to work with, and then sometimes it's kind of sticky, and so I don't know. I mean, masking fluid is kind of a pain. It can really be a pain, but it's useful, and it's really effective. So it does the job, you know. Anyway, so I just pour the excess back in there. And yeah, you're going to waste a little bit, but it's not any more than what is going to naturally dry up inside this bottle anyway. So I don't really feel like I'm being super, super wasteful. Anyway, so about the pens. Let's go back to the pens because those are my favorite. So to use these, you definitely want to shake them up. And give them a little pump so that you can see that the fluid is starting to flow, and then you can actually cover pretty fine details with these. You just got to work in kind of like small strokes, like small soft strokes. You don't really want to, you don't need to press hard to get the fluid to flow. You don't want to go back over the wet fluid that you apply. Even if you like have a gap and you need to like, you know that you need to fill that gap. Wait for the fluid to dry, and then come back over it. Because if you start going over the fluid while it's still wet, what'll happen is the tip of the pen will actually start to pick up the masking fluid that you've already laid down, and then it becomes it just becomes a mess. So see, like right here, I know I don't have you guys zoomed in really far, but right there I have a little bit of a gap, and I'm trying to cover it, and what's happening is that I'm actually picking up masking fluid. So I'm just trying to get the fluid flowing a little bit more, and then trying to fill it in. I have to kind of look at this at an angle to see where the light reflects, to see if I've actually covered everything I want to cover. So what I usually do is I use the smaller one to get my details, and then I'll go in with my larger tip with the 4mm one if I want to make that border a little bit wider. And I think it's better to actually have your masked area a little bit safer by just making that a tiny bit wider. Now, if you don't have both pens, or you don't want to put out the money to have both pens, you can do the same thing with the smaller one. It's nice if you have both sizes to be able to do that, and to just kind of thicken that up a little bit. So what I'm planning to do here is I'm going to apply paint outside these images. So I don't want my paint to get in on the inside of these images. On these over here, I'm intending to apply my paint to the flowers and not outside of the design. So I've gone in with, my small masking pen, and I've masked off all the background that's in between these flowers, and I've done an area around the outside so that hopefully I don't get paint spilling out into any of the background. I only want paint on the flowers. This one is the exact opposite. So I need to go back. I need to now, do the little snail. So just so you know, that's my plan is. Now I'm gonna tape this off. Might as well just do it now. Just gonna use some washi tape. What I like to do is turn my book so it's kind of, so I've got the spine going, you know, horizontal, and then I take the back of the tape and I slide it, and this is just to make sure that I get it nice into the spine. So I slide it on the back down to that edge, you know, just on the back, so I can still move it around if I need to. And then I'll flop it down. Actually, I need it on the other side. Sorry. So, just saying, that's just a nice way to make sure that your masking tape gets all the way down into the spine and it's straight. Okay, so this way I can work on these backgrounds and not get anything onto this side on the background, and now I can work on my flowers. I just need to mask off that little snail. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do on here. Now I've already done basically the same thing here, but I'm not doing anything on this page at the moment. So I've taped off that page because I didn't want to get paint on that side. So a couple ways that you can get your masking tape off and not damage your paper. One way is just go slow, like, you know, don't just rip it off. You want to go slow. And then the other thing is that you want to kind of keep the tape as flat as possible when you're pulling it, and just kind of slide it along itself when you're removing your tape. And if you see any sign that it's pulling up the paper, stop and then start again from the other end and do the same thing, and then just, you know, pull it all the way off. If that's not working, get out a blow dryer or a heat gun and warm up the tape, and that will soften the glue, and then you can get your tape off without damaging your paper. The other thing is, don't leave it on there for days. Like, you know, remove your tape as quickly as possible. And the same goes for masking fluid. You never want to leave masking fluid on your paper more than, I would say, maybe 8 hours at the most. Like, otherwise you're going to have major problems. But I do need to say, if you do wind up getting out the heat gun to remove your tape at any point, do not do that while you have masking fluid on the paper, because as soon as you apply heat to it, it's basically gonna affix, it'll be permanent on the paper. Like, you'll have a hell of a time getting the masking fluid off if you use a blow dryer or heat gun. And just be patient and wait for your paint to dry naturally. Work on something else while your paint is drying. So you can see on this one, I've masked off outside my image, and I've only painted the image itself, okay? And on the top, I masked off the image, and I've only applied paint to the outside, to the background. So they're kind of like, you know, opposite. So as far as removing masking fluid, this is what I do. Other people do different things. This is what I do. Through my own trial and error, I've discovered that this is what works for me. So I get rubber cement pickup, like, erasers. It's not really, I mean, I guess it's an eraser, but it's intended for rubber cement. And then I get an X-Acto knife, a really sharp X-Acto knife, and very carefully and responsibly, I will cut a slice off of that so that I get these little like thin pieces. Yeah, because you don't need a huge piece, and it's actually nice to have the corners to work with, and you will get masking fluid that kind of builds up on this, and after a while it just, I don't know, it's like you kind of want to just replace it and toss this. So then it's nice to have another, you can just cut off another piece. So anyway, so don't use your fingers. Don't rub it with your fingers. Honestly, it just, all you're doing really is, first of all, you're depositing oils from your fingers onto your paper, and you're also heating up the masking fluid with the heat from your fingers, which is going to make it even more difficult to remove and result in damage to your paper. And it's just too much. It's just too much, like, I don't know, it's like too much friction. Also, you really don't want to pull the masking fluid off. When you use these pens, the layer of masking fluid is very, very thin. So it's kind of hard to even, if you wanted to just pull it off, it's really hard to grab it, like, you know. So anyway, so just use a tool. You can use just a regular eraser too. I have never done that, but I have seen people using just a regular, you know, just a regular old eraser. I mean, we can try it and see how it works, but I've always used these because the masking fluid sticks to it. And anyway, let's try the regular eraser and see how it works. Yeah, I guess it does, but you wind up with the eraser stuff, and I don't like that. Anyway, I just like to use this, and then I just kind of hold a little piece in my hand like this, and I just very gently pull in one direction. You just want to wipe it off. You're basically just wiping it off with this little guy, and you're not going back and forth, because you don't want to rub masking fluid like back and forth over your paint either. So we're just picking it up with this, and it really is pretty easy to get off with, you know, using these. So this is what I recommend. Biggest thing, don't leave it on your page for more than, gosh, maybe, I mean, overnight is fine, but I wouldn't be going like much past 12 to 16 hours. And then you wind up with these little boogers of masking fluid, and you just have to kind of pick them off sometimes. But yeah, that's how I do it, and it works pretty well. And I mean, this is the same thing I do on watercolor paper. I just use my little tool. And, you know, it's not perfect. Like, you know, like I got a little bit of paint out in areas where I didn't want it. But that's okay. I mean, it's watercolor. I can still work with it. I just give myself some grace, you know, when it comes to doing this kind of stuff. It's like, it's never going to be absolutely perfect, you know. One thing I will say is that if you get crazy with your paint, like I sometimes do, and you wind up with a lot of paint that's like beaded up on top of your masking fluid, and then it's dried on there. Sometimes sometimes it's a good idea to come in with like a water brush and just kind of dampen that paint that's right on top of the masking fluid. Just kind of dampen it and then lift it off. So and that's if you can see that it's really thick paint that's just dried on top of your masking fluid. And the reason for that is that when you start removing the masking fluid, that paint that's dried on there, you create a possibility that you're going to be rubbing that paint. Even though it's dry, it's still going to be like free pigment that you can smear onto your image or into the background that you work so hard to preserve, you know. So I'm just saying, like, it's a good idea to try to remove any like big thick chunks of paint that have dried on top of your masking fluid. And once I start at the top. I just work my way down, just trying to go in just one direction. And you can see it comes off pretty easily. And then I'll show you guys what I do to sort of deal with my little spots where, you know, where I got paint in places where I didn't want it, or where I have blank spaces where the masking fluid didn't cover, that kind of thing. And it's really, watercolor is actually pretty forgiving, and it's pretty versatile. Okay, so then you can just kind of run your fingers across your paper, and if you feel like you have little chunks somewhere, then you can just kind of gently go and sort of rub them off. But and that's the only time that I'll go, like, you know, in that motion, like a regular eraser, you know, is when I'm going back and just when I feel like I'm feeling masking fluid somewhere where it didn't pick up. And you'll be able to actually feel the paint on the paper, but yeah, so okay, so I feel pretty good about that. So then what I'll do is, like, you can see there's little areas, like, see right here on his neck where, you know, I didn't get any paint, or like around this horn right here, there's some blank spots, things like that, where it's like really obvious. I'll go in with a water brush and I'll just kind of activate a little bit of that watercolor that's in that same area and just push it where I want it to kind of fill in those little gaps. And I like to have a baby wipe nearby just to clean my brush off. I've actually started using my, this is just a blender pen for the Clean Color Real Brush set. And I've been using this as a water brush. And I'm telling you, this is the best water brush. I love that it has that tiny little brush on it. It's a real brush, like real, you know, brush fibers. And I can just be really, really accurate with it. And I just love it. And I figured out how to refill it. It's actually pretty easy. You just take the bottom off and squirt some water in there. But yeah. So if you have these, you can actually get them on Amazon. They have a 2-pack for like $7.99. So you can get 2 of these and use them as a water brush. The only thing about it is that you can't like squeeze it to like get more water going, but it's pretty nice. And I've been using it for like activating ink tints and watercolor pencils and stuff like that. See, I'm just going around and kind of reactivating that dried paint and sort of fixing my errors. And then where I have paint that has where I didn't get masking fluid or something, something happened, I can kind of do the same thing where I'm just activating that paint, just getting it wet a little bit, and then I come in with a dry towel and I just push it. Like, this isn't watercolor paper, so I'm not going to be able to lift all of that paint off, but I can get some of it. I can at least get some of it. Just kind of dampen it a little bit. And then just rub it. I'm not rubbing this. I'm just laying this down, and then I'm rubbing my finger like that to just apply pressure to pull out, the water that I've put down on the paper. And sometimes you can just use the brush and just push the paint. But I don't expect this to be perfect, like I said. So, and like, here's another little area, and I'm just gonna, push the paint out a little bit where I want it. So, okay, so that's basically what I know about masking fluid in my Johanna Basford coloring book. Like I said, I've used it in Hannah Carlson all the time. And just kind of as a future project that kind of got me going on this whole subject, actually. I did have a request from a viewer to work on a specific page in this book. She wanted me to do this horse, mermaid, unicorn. I don't really know what you call it. If anybody knows what this is called, please tell me in the comments. But yeah, so I said I would work on this page. And see right here, I totally messed up. And I painted right over. See, I had done masking fluid all around everything. And left this gap. And so when I was applying my background paint, I just painted right over it. So I've got this paint here, and I'll have to figure out something to do with that to fix it. But I just feel like a lot of times when you have a problem like that, it becomes an opportunity to do something cool. So, it doesn't bother me. And this is not a double page spread, but I decided to sort of treat it that way. And I didn't use any masking fluid on this page. I don't know if you can see, but see the drawing goes all the way up here. And so I've just taken that watercolor and I've just painted over, I just painted over a bunch of it. I might even actually come in and just paint over all of it. And then I can work with it with pencil. And I'm kind of wanting this to be sort of like a nighttime underwater vibe, So, and whatever it is, it just is. Like, I don't plan it out. It's not, it's not like I wrote down a plan. So, anyway, so that's about it. If you have questions about anything to do with masking fluid, I'm more than happy to try to answer your questions. And yeah, so that's it. Let me know what you know about masking fluid that I didn't mention, because I know that, you know, there's a lot of stuff that I don't know about it. So I'd like to hear your thoughts about how you use masking fluid, and if you've tried it in other coloring books. I have tried it in, hang on. Yeah, I did. I used masking fluid on this book and masked off the whole image. And this is definitely an Amazon printed book. And it worked just fine. So, but you can see I got pretty good details with the using those pens. So anyway, I'll leave links in the description to these pens on Amazon. But honestly, if you want to get them, I would look on Blick, or some other art supply, you know, store. Just because I'm afraid if you buy them from Amazon, they might be dried out, because who knows how long they've been sitting in an Amazon warehouse under really dry conditions. So yeah, anyway, so that's it. Okay guys, I love you, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to come back and do any kind of color along thing with this guy before the end of the month. I might, you never know. You never know. So we'll just leave that up in the air. But maybe next time I see you will be with all my colored pages from March. Okay? Okay, guys. I love you. And thanks for watching. And hit the subscribe button, okay? Just do it. Okay. Love you. Bye for now.